My name is Adam Parrott, and I've been organizing the Toronto 9/11 Truth meetup group for the past 6 months. Before I really start, I'd like to thank all the people who made this tour possible, such as Adnan Zubairi at the University of Waterloo and Graham McQueen at the McMaster University. Barry Zwicker, Patrick Borden in Vancouver, and many others who were instrumental in making Canada's first 9/11 Truth national tour possible. Annie will be speaking in Waterloo tomorrow night, and then again in Hamilton at the Mohawk College on Monday. So the 9/11 Truth movement has come a long way since I joined in 2005 while I was attending Queen's University. Back then, I didn't know a single person personally who was aware of all of the problems and major gaps in the U.S. government's official story. At that time, the very mention of the alternative theory, by which I mean the controlled demolition hypothesis, was considered to be outside of polite conversation. It was considered to be repugnant. It was said to be insulting to the victims' families, and it was said to be an insult to the troops fighting the war on terror. It was even said, but today I'm surprised at the showing of 9/11 Truth signs at public rallies, such as the rally at the Bush-Clinton speaking event at Toronto Convention Center. Of course, now today also the many family members are calling for a reinvestigation as well.
Can you speak a bit louder or put the microphone on?
Unfortunately, we don't have the audio system functioning, but I'll try and speak loudly. This, of course, this change in public opinion is widely due to the list of professional organizations with experience in highly technical areas such as Scholars for 9/11 Truth and Justice, Architects and Engineers for 9/11, Pilots for 9/11 Truth, Firefighters for 9/11 Truth, Medical Professionals for 9/11 Truth, and Intelligence Officers for 9/11 Truth. And on top of this, there are regional groups around the country, in Canada and the US, that are passionate about stopping the policies of the incorrect interpretation of 9/11. This has made all the difference in changing the public opinion and eroding the support for the illegal wars of aggression that our government supports. You'll notice that we did give out some envelopes today, and I hope that you will support us financially by making a donation to help preserve this movement and its message. Though 8 years has passed since 9/11, it's still politically relevant today. Among American military and political elites, it is still used as a justification for aggressive actions overseas, like the military occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan, attacks against Pakistan and Somalia, and domestically, curtailment of civil liberties and domestic surveillance. The Canadian government also uses 9/11 to justify its actions. In a letter response to me last year, the Minister of Defense, Peter MacKay, wrote, "It is well established that terrorists used Afghanistan as a basis of operations for the attacks," and referred to the independent panel on Canada's future role in Afghanistan as a reference. It's also known as the Manley Report, to support his claim. And in this report, they say that the attacks were due to Al-Qaeda, whose leaders planned and directed the attacks from Afghanistan. And this reference is undoubtedly from the 9/11 Commission report. But in my letter, I asked him about the legitimacy of the 9/11 Commission, and he said that, quote, "He was not in the position to comment on reports produced by another government." Meanwhile, independent analysts like David Ray Griffin have said that the 9/11 Commission report is a 571-page lie. So our government adopted the official account of 9/11 without any proper evaluation of the 9/11 Commission report. It committed its defense forces to a costly and open-ended occupation in Afghanistan that is exacerbating the violence and human rights abuses in that country. If we continue to trust at face value all the intelligence we receive from other nations, Canada is bound to make more mistakes and incur additional heavy human and monetary costs. The nature of the intelligence world is one of deception, and it is time that our intelligence services act accordingly and not quite so naively. And it is to our speaker I turn to knowledge of the intelligence services, Annie Machon. She is a Cambridge University Classics graduate who worked in the areas of counter-subversion and counter-terrorism within the British intelligence MI5. After becoming aware of gross mismanagement within the agency and state-sponsored assassination plots, Machon resigned to blow the whistle on the illegal activities that she witnessed. She stands with the experts who believe there are serious problems with the official account and the official narrative of 9/11. Please welcome Ms. Annie Machon.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Adam, and thank you all for coming tonight. Can you all hear me at the back? Is it loud enough? Yeah, good. Okay, shame the mic's not working. Okay, I'm probably going to speak for about an hour tonight, just going through what it was like to be recruited and work as a spy, and also to detail some of the things that went wrong behind the veil of secrecy, but also what it's like to leave and blow the whistle and end up having to go on the run around Europe, live in exile, live in hiding, and go through 2 big court cases, as well as then sort of pulling some of the threads, some of the lessons out from a personal story and look at the bigger picture when it comes to the current use and abuse of intelligence in the current war on terror. But to start with, just as a little bit of context, in the UK we have 3 different intelligence agencies. Well, we have 3 different primary intelligence agencies. We have MI5, which is the UK Domestic Security Service. They used to shorten it down to UKSS, but I think they realised it didn't sound quite so good. We also have MI6, which does the foreign intelligence gathering role. They tend to they like to think of themselves as James Bond. That's the organisation he's supposed to work for. And we have a government listening post called GCHQ, Government Communications Headquarters. We also, around the 3 primary agencies, have a whole plethora of minor agencies like Customs, Serious Organised Crime Agency, Military Intelligence, which is always the greatest oxymoron on the planet, I think. And every single police force across the UK has its own special branch, which is the sort of secret police section. And they carry out the executive orders of the spies in the UK. So there's all these agencies. It's a very historic, very British model. And they all end up competing for power and prestige and knowledge. So it's not the most effective infrastructure, should we say, for guarding our national security. These agencies have been around for about 100 years. In fact, they're celebrating their centenary this year, with a lot of PR in the media, what a wonderful job they're doing, etc., etc. Well, I hope to disprove some of those myths tonight. But they also didn't exist officially for 80 of those years. It was only in 1989 that MI5 finally came out of the shadows. Up until that point, they could bug and burgle, I must have to be careful saying that, their way around London with impunity, as a famous 1980s whistleblower, Peter Wright, who wrote a book called Spycatcher, was said to have written. However, in 1989, after a series of scandals involving whistleblowers in the 1980s, they were finally put on a legal footing with the Security Service Act. And this is rather important because when I was approached to work for them in 1990, they told me that, in fact, they changed the way they worked. They had a stinking reputation at that point for investigating left-wing political activists. They had a stinking reputation for investigating organisations like CND or